two scenarios that we put together, and as Kathy mentioned, you're probably going to see that there's a lot of similar elements in both of them, but that's because we've been listening and seeing that there actually are things that are important, and we've tried to incorporate them in both. The first one, we've separated the two with colors. One's blue, one's orange, and you'll see that when you get the packets handed out for your work sessions. And I know it's probably hard to see some of the detail on these, so you'll be able to read that when you get the plans at your tables. In the first option, we're calling this town square, and that's because what it does is it takes and creates a very large open space in the center of the quad, like right in the center of the main buildings. This actually is a really large open space. It's actually the size of almost 3 soccer fields. It's achieved by taking out the one building that isn't historic in the middle. It's a fairly modern building that was probably built in the 50s or 60s, but it's not really relevant to historic preservation. So in that respect, then what we do is, in this scheme, we're showing that all of the buildings surrounding the main campus are to be developed as apartments or residential uses. The other feature in this core area, as part of this kind of town square, is incorporating the use of the chapel and the infirmary for an art center, which is something that's been discussed before. And also having on the south side, and these drawings are rotated, so the south is actually to the right of the drawing. On the south side of the main campus quad, we're showing some opportunity for commercial development and possibly a daycare center so that it helps bring activity to that central core area. On the Hospital Road side on the south, we're showing what we call the green and keeping that open. As John said, it's a really beautiful area. And keeping that landscaped area open as something that could be used for events or public gatherings. And then on the opposite side, there's a really beautiful area on the north side of the campus, which is just these really wonderful rolling hills, so keeping that preserved as open space as well. And that helps support the housing too, because that really, gives views and actually kind of increases the desire to be out there and live out there. On the north side, we are showing a little area just to the north of the existing buildings to be reserved for potential future development. And then down on Hospital Road, shown in the brighter yellow, there's some existing residential down there, single-family homes. We're showing keeping that as single-family homes, perhaps adding a few more in there, so that there's a range of housing types available on the site, so everything from apartments to single-family. On the west side, which is shown at the bottom of the page, with the views out to the Charles, we're showing a potential senior living center. This would be a combination of new construction and some restoration of some of the existing buildings. And that would have either nursing care, memory care, or perhaps just assisted living in it. So if we go to the next slide, this is an image of how it would look. And again, you'll be able to see this with the printouts that you get at your tables, but just an overview of how it would play out with the green space at the front from Hospital Road kind of working its way into the large open green square in the center. If we look at the second scheme, this one we actually take the opposite approach and we actually keep some of the buildings more densely in the actual core of the campus. We're calling this one the rural village. And in this, you'll see the orange in the center. That is actually taking and putting the senior living right in the center of the campus, so it's easily accessible to some of the other uses like the arts center, which could be, again, here shown as part of the chapel and the infirmary. We're also showing some commercial development in the center with perhaps a cafe, some offices, something that helps keep this an active center space that really is publicly accessible that way. In this scheme, we took a slightly different approach to some of the open space like that up on the north side of the campus, shown on the left side of the drawing here. We're actually suggesting that this could be rented out or leased out for agricultural use, something that would help preserve the kind of character of what this was when the hospital was operating. To that effect, too, down on the Hospital Road side, where we had the small houses and cottages in the other scheme, in this case, we're suggesting actually taking those away and creating an arboretum that's a public open space. There is a really wonderful tree collection there that actually is something that should be preserved. And so this scenario says, let's just keep that open and focus all of the housing density up on the main campus itself. The last thing I'll point out on this one is that on the west side, which is at the bottom of the page here, in that instance here we're showing potential commercial development because this is an area that's easily accessible from the road without conflicting with the housing and residential uses. The thought here is that in some of the schemes that you guys have gone through in the past, that maybe there is an inn here with a restaurant function or entertainment function hall for weddings, things like that, and also perhaps some office space. So if we turn to the next slide, this is just again another representation of that. You'll see the orange building in the center of this space in the middle of the quad. In this case, what you're left over for green space here, you still have something that's larger than a soccer field back there, so it's not small or insignificant. So let me go to the next slide. I'll just talk a little bit quickly about the next piece of the site, which is the south side of Hospital Road. We have shown two different scenarios here. We've heard the desire from Parks and Recreation to have a facility on the south side of Hospital Road. This is showing what their projected facility size is. It is a 26,000 square foot program space, and then a potential for an additional 30,000 square foot indoor recreation field. And this represents about what the parking requirement would be for that size of facility. If we go to the next, this is the other option on this. What we're showing here is similar to the north side in this scenario where we show potential agricultural use. The soil conditions on this side of Hospital Road are actually really, really good. So this would be very conducive to potentially leasing out for agricultural uses. We're showing the option of possibly putting a barn and greenhouse that would help support that use on this side of the road.